What's up, y'all? Bill McNeil rocking the mic again, cold representing Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. It's got the mad flavor that takes any situation to the next level. So when the party starts bouncing and the ladies start bumping, tighten up your flow with Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. Damn!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. We recently got news on the Wonder Woman 80th anniversary celebration, and I was a little bit disappointed with some of the new materials, but it turns out that's not the only celebration DC is going to be doing in the near future. In June, they're going to have their Pride #1 celebration, anthology book. They're also going to be launching a Crush and Lobo, Pride-associated ongoing series that will, I believe, go through the end of the year. They got some other projects out there. And here to talk with me about that is independent writer, independent editor, award-winning editor, Joe Corrado. How you doing?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
How the times have changed for DC Comics. It wasn't all that long ago that they had pitched that they were going to have the first same-sex marriage in DC Comics in the Batwoman series. That was nixed. They did not want to do that. A few years ago, they had took a more LGBTQ plus inclusive stance, and now there feels like they're actually celebrating Pride Month.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see some of this movement off camera. When we were just talking about this, I did mention that I think one of the strangest things about it is why it took so long after the success of Love is Love as an anthology that was a joint effort with IDW and other publishers joined in too. Obviously, that was the result of a tragedy and was a benefit book, but that was a very successful book almost 5 years ago now. It's weird it took this long for them to want to do this kind of book when they knew there was some kind of audience for it. Even if the audience was like a quarter of the people that bought, Love is Love, that's still a successful anthology book. So I am curious why it took so long for them to do something like that for Pride Month, but hey.
So here, let's talk about the details. This is what's going to be in the anthology book. First up is Batwoman by James Tynion and Trung Nguyen. We've also got a Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn by Mariko, Tamaki, and Amy Reeder. That's kind of the big story. That feels like it's the headline story is the Poison Ivy. We got Midnighter by Steve Orlando, Stephen Byrne. Flash Earth 11, that would be Jess Chambers by Danny Lauren, Lisa Sturl. Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Obviously, that was a big part of the recent Infinite Frontier #0. And Obsidian from Sam Johns and Klaus Janson. Probably the biggest name creator on here.
Yeah.
Probably bigger than James Tynion, just as far as his portfolio work. Aqualad, Jackson Hyde by Andrew Wheeler and Luciano Vecchio. Dreamer, this is an original character, I think, from the CW Supergirl. This is going to be that character's introduction in the DC universe, and it's going to be written by the lady who I think plays that character, Nicole Maines, with Rachel Stott on art. Renee Montoya by Vita Ayala and Skylar Partridge, and Pied Piper by Sina Grace, Rose Stein, and Ted Brandt. So as far as the characters, no real headliners other than Poison Ivy, and it's, I don't know, I hate to say it, it's kind of all the creators you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, there are characters here like Pied Piper that make a lot of sense. Pied Piper, for people that don't know, was really the first character in modern comics that came out as gay in a way that was celebrated by GLAAD. Got Bill Messner-Loeb's the first GLAAD award in comics back in 1992. So that makes sense, but you're looking at the list here, and of course, it's a lot of the creators that you'd expect for something like this. I wonder how many people didn't realize that Klaus Janson was gay. He is. If you read some old interviews with him, even in like Daredevil back in like the late 70s, early 80s, he's pretty open about that, which is crazy. But you look at this and yeah, it's a lot of their staple of creators that I identify that way, which, it's great. I'm glad. I know for a fact Vita's a big fan of Renee Montoya. We've talked about that before. It's good to see Vita getting a chance to tackle that character. We knew that they were going to try to do some more stuff with Jess Chambers. that was inevitable. Dreamer, I know, has been a character that DC has been trying to figure out how to integrate into the comic universe. So now we figured that out. But yeah, we've seen they do a lot of work with Mariko Tamaki. Amy Reeder is just off that Amethyst series. What was it? We see Sienna Grace has been doing some more stuff recently at DC with he had that Shazam one shot.
Also did a lot of the normally if there's an anthology, you get a Sienna Grace story. Not the best story in Flat or the Green Lantern anthology, I'll tell you that. But
sure, but it's you're looking at this, and yeah, and Danny Lore's profile has definitely been going up. Now writing the Champions over at Marvel.
Interesting, Joe. No Grant Morrison. It felt like that was kind of a big moment in comics. Did it just kind of go by everybody's heads that kind of Grant Morrison is now identifying as non-binary?
Yeah, there's a few curious things here. I do understand these anthologies. Like, let's be real with everyone. These anthologies are never the publisher's top priority. These are usually books that editors want to put together, and it's whoever answers those emails first and delivers on time tends to get in on these books. So it's very plausible that, maybe they thought about asking Grant, and, Grant says, I don't have time I'm not doing this anthology. That's a very possible situation. But when you're doing stuff like this, it would have been really nice to have Grant do a Danny the Street story. Danny the Street is now more popular than ever, being a featured and beloved character on the Doom Patrol TV series. Grant co-created Danny the Street in Doom Patrol, and Danny was a genderqueer sentient street over 30 years ago. That would have been a really cool thing to have in an anthology like this.
Yeah, it's kind of strange they don't have any like Doom Patrol. That's like kind of a groundbreaking character or comic book back in the day. Just kind of like some of the stuff they were doing. People, like, if you go back and read it, it's kind of mind blowing that how ballsy they were back in the day.
Sure. And I mean, I mentioned Rachel Pollack a decent amount because she's a friend, but she created Coagulant Doom Patrol, the first transgender superhero, back in 1993. And Scott Eaton illustrated that issue, and he's still working. He's doing Wolverine soon, I think next month. And, Rachel, I know for a fact, is more than willing to work. She was the first out trans woman writing comics at the Big Two. You'd think you'd want to celebrate that and have someone like her in this book. They don't. They don't have Grant Morrison. They don't have Ivan Velez, who was an out Hispanic man working at Milestone, did Blood Syndicate. He's around. Joan Hilty was another. She was an out queer woman at DC in the 90s and 2000s. Caitlin R. Kiernan created Echo in The Dreaming. She was an out trans woman writing comics in the 90s at, Vertigo. And Sandman's going to be a TV show. Why not have Caitlin R. Kiernan writing an Echo story in this? Remind everybody remind people of how progressive they were decades ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah. And these are,
I don't think a lot of people realize it.
They don't realize it. And these are all people. They're on social media. They have emails. If I can reach out to these people, DC can, and it's mind-blowing that
this is the cynic in me, Joe, and I'm cynical.
Sure.
Some people think the channel should be called Thinking Cynical, and I agree with them. Obviously there's a couple big name writers. You got the Batman writer on there. You got the Detective Comics writer. You got Klaus Janson. Obviously one of the more influential, artists. In comic history, he's been around for some great things.
Sure.
It feels like it's just they're not putting a lot of A-list like characters and stuff on here. They want to put the book out, that they get a write up in the Hollywood Reporter, maybe in USA Today and stuff like that. Then they're never going to promote it. It's not like their Green Lantern 80th anniversary, their Wonder Woman, even her 80th anniversary. They're expecting to move a lot of units. So I don't know, is it a vanity project? Am I too cynical?
It's a little bit of a vanity project. I mean, if a book like this is going to sell, it's going to sell during Pride Month. That makes a lot of sense. The part of what you're saying too, now that you brought up Wonder Woman on many occasions, it's been brought up, is either, bi or lesbian. And Wonder Woman has more of a reason to be portrayed as bi than a lot of other characters, being from a world, growing up on Themyscira where there were no men. It makes perfect sense that she would be, bi or pan or anything like that. So why not combine Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary and Wonder Woman appearing in this anthology? I think
it has to do with they still think she's a bankable character in movies. And as much as they want to support Pride, they might not want to support it that much.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get a Constantine cameo, but no Constantine specific story. We're not going to get a Catwoman story, despite the fact that it's been said that Catwoman is bi, and she would be a bigger character than a lot of these other characters. If you want to move copies of books like this, it doesn't hurt having characters like Catwoman and Wonder Woman
On the cover.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt having them on the cover, and it doesn't hurt having some older creators to kind of highlight how progressive you were 30 years ago. And you might get a different audience coming in. There could be people who are like, oh, wow, Klaus Janson and like Ivan Velez and, Rachel Pollack. Oh, wow, that's crazy. I'll pick it up. You never know with this.
The cynic in me is about to come out. That might shatter some narratives, Joe.
It's possible that something like that would. I wish.
Like, people probably don't realize that 30 years ago there were two openly trans creators working in DC.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy that all this was going on. That one of their they had openly gay editors, multiple at DC years ago. It's Phil Jimenez, openly gay man in the 90s, working in comics, and oddly enough, I don't see his name on here. Just weird stuff like that. I'm not seeing a variant cover from him either. It's very possible there might be. Who can go through all these variant covers?
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the other stuff besides just DC Pride #1. They're going to be re-releasing a comic book from GLAAD Media Award nominated Suicide Squad Bad Blood from Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. Obviously, they're the creative team behind of Nightwing, coming up soon. Also, Poison Ivy Thorns by Cody Keplinger and Sarah Kippen, Mariko Tamaki, and Yoshitani's I Am Not Starfire. So those are some of the other things that they're doing. There's a boatload of covers that are coming out. Batman's going to have a Pride Month cover. Crush and Lobo, which we're going to talk about here in a second, will have one. Obviously, DC Pride. Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Superman, Teen Titans Academy, Wonder Girl, and Wonder Woman will all have Pride Month covers. Yeah. Now, the other series that is coming out, and this one kind of confuses me, they're going to do a mini series of Crush and Lobo that's coming out starting on June 8th. And it's going to have like the Pride logo on the cover. But obviously, like, you think about the anthology, they're going to be, short stories, probably talking about their experiences, as LGBTQ characters within the DC universe. Like, are they going to do an entire miniseries about that? Because I really like Crush as a character, but if it's just about like who she wants to date, that doesn't sound exciting for an actual comic series in DC's universe.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not the case, that it's just launching that month, so they're rolling it in as part of the marketing. It's probably
kind of what they were doing with Wonder Woman a little bit. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, this is coming out. That's Wonder Woman 80th anniversary.
Yeah, I think it's more that, and these these covers, this is something that Image has been doing for a few years. It doesn't matter if it's a Pride related issue or not. It is not going to reflect the inside of these books at all. They're just going to be variant covers like other variant covers. So don't get upset, and also don't get your hopes up, no matter how you feel about this. Like, don't pick up the Pride variant of Nightwing thinking that it's going to be, a coming out story or something like that. These are just...
It's not the confirmation that Dick Grayson, we might not know everything about his personal life.
Yeah, if they do announce something like that, it's probably going to be after Final Order cutoff, and it'll be a fiasco. So,
might cause some ruffle some feathers
yeah.
if you were to change a character that's essentially been around for 80 years straight.
Yes.
That much. So, I don't know. As a person that likely enjoys Pride Month, celebrates it probably a little bit more than I do.
Probably.
Is this something that you're excited for? Do you think this is a good move by DC, or do you think this is just a first step?
I think it's a good move in that this will excite people. It's going to excite some people more than it excites me. I'm more excited to see friends of mine and other people work on some of these characters. Ultimately, it's an anthology, so we're only going to be getting 8 pages per character, and and they're probably going to be like 8-page one and done stories for some of these people. I'm happy to see Steve Orlando tackling Midnighter again. That's one of my favorite things he's ever worked on. Is Midnighter? A lot of
people's favorite thing he's ever worked on.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Vita does with Renee Montoya, because I know that Vita loves that character. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
The last time she wrote in an anthology was, I think it was Wonder Woman 750. That's the last time I read anything in an anthology. And her 8 to 10 page story there was perfect. So they certainly thrive on the shorter format.
Yeah, they could really knock this one out of the park. James has tackled Batwoman before. I'm sure James will do a fine job with that. So there's a lot here that should be fun. The book's probably not going to be for everyone, like all anthologies. But I'm interested to see this. It's nice to see that they finally put that 2 and 2 together with this Love is Love anthology sold really well 5 years ago. We should capitalize on that. I don't know why they waited. I don't know why they let Image do Pride variants for years before really pushing to do that on their end. But I'm happy they're doing it, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, Joe, I will give you the last word. Do you have anything else you want to say about DC Pride #1, and then and they're rolling out their kind of Pride celebration for their comic books?
I hope this is just the beginning, in the sense that I hope this does well enough where if they do this again next year, that they bring in some of these older creators and highlight their past, because it's time that people acknowledge that. And a lot of these creators aren't getting any younger.
DC does have a platform. They have a pretty enormous YouTube channel, and there's Disney, or not Disney Plus, HBO Max, where maybe they could do a docuseries and they could talk about, what's the history of these things. Because I imagine a lot of them have some very interesting stories.
Absolutely. Rachel Pollack has interesting stories, even though, as far as I know, Bill Mesner-Loebs is straight, but he got that first GLAAD award with Pied Piper. He's around. He'll talk to you. He's not hard to get a hold of. These are people who are out there and are willing to talk, or willing to participate in these legacies. And I think if, this goes well, that DC should seriously consider that in the future.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.